Hello and welcome to Perfectly Paranormal, episode 63. My name's Annaschmidt, and I'm here every week to share with you true paranormal encounters and information about devils, demons, and dark energy beings that no one else talks about. They literally don't. And today we have a slightly off topic, a little pun there, as you will see later on. We are unpacking dark energy beings and their stinky habits. Have you ever smelt an unexplainably bad smell that caught you by surprise? And there was no tangible reason for this upsetting stink, and you're left wondering what and why this stinky stench had occurred. And worst of all, the odorous smell seems to follow you around your home, and you just can't get away from it. We're going to look at why these beings create their stinky stinks, and what they get out of invading our noses with the smelliest smells that you could imagine. And also some of the things that you can do about these stinks. Now, if you've ever smelt a paranormal stink, here are some of the descriptions that people have shared with me over the years, and some of the things that I've experienced myself. Now, I've defined for this episode 4 main types of stink that we can look at as they kind of vary to their level of intensity. And I suppose too, everyone's nose is going to have a different level of sensitivity. So what's really stinky to one person might not smell at all to another. Now, number 1 is the sulfuric gas smell. This is particularly bad. I have actually smelt this myself. And it feels like, how can I explain it? It feels like it burns all of the hairs in your nostrils. Like you were simply repulsed or repelled from the place where this smell is located. It is particularly bad. Now, you've got also the classic rotten egg smell. Now, who hasn't smelt that at one stage or another? And you can't work out the reason why. Some of these beings, some of the elemental beings that I'm going to talk about later on, they love to drop these rotten egg stinks. And there's certain reasons why they do it, which I'm going to cover later in this episode. Now, as much as I dislike the sulfuric gas smell, number 3, which is the rotting carcass smell. Oh my gosh, these stinks are particularly bad. Now, I'm laughing slightly because it's my way of coping. It's my way of coping when I remember some of the smells that have followed me around buildings, followed me around my home, been present under my bed. And I mean, obviously, there's no rotting carcasses under my bed. And I don't know why that smell is there. These beings, they just know how to trigger us. And smell, for me, is something that I'm quite sensitive with. And they really do make your stomach turn over. Now, the last one, it's probably the mildest of the 3 that I've mentioned so far. It's that dank, musty, mouldy type smell. And you're all going, yeah, I know, I've smelt that one. And you just can't put your finger on where it's coming from. You know, if it's in the home, you go through and you do all the debunking for all the different possibilities that could be causing these smells. You wash your curtains, wash your carpets, wash your cushions, you wash, clean and clear everything. But the smell is still there. Many of my clients have had this type of smell in certain areas of their homes. And before contacting an energy worker to investigate the problem, like I just said, they've done all the rational debunking. They've looked at ventilation issues, water leakages into rooms, building issues, spilled liquids, food that might have been left under beds by teenagers. You know what they're like. Or sewage pipes that have kind of, busted or broken. And they come back with no, and no. It's got to be energetic. And I get people to think about what's gone on in their lives that might have attracted this smell. And usually there is a very strong reason why, which I'm going to cover later on in some of our stories. Now, these stinks can be fleeting and gone in a flash. And sometimes they can be stationary in a space, in a home. Well, sometimes they can seem to stick to you and you wonder what on earth is going on. And I'm going to expand on that in this following real-life account that I've called The Smelly Follower. Now, a mate of mine in the UK is a fellow house healer. And after he'd finished a very long, intensive job on a very large property, he noticed a smell in his flat. And it was not a very nice smell at that. Now, were the two connected? Now, he did all the debunking of all the things that I mentioned earlier on. At first, he thought not. He thought, nah, it's not connected. It's just something that, the people upstairs, downstairs, or in either one of the flats are cooking, or they've got something going on. They might be smoking or something a little bit naughty. But the awful odour lingered, and it seemed to follow him like a stinky fog everywhere that he went. It was nasty. Like, it was really, really nasty, and it was irritating his nose quite badly. Now, this was the sulfuric gas type smell. He was one of the first people that I came across that had actually smelt this. And he said that it was burning the hairs on both sides of his nostrils. Every time he breathed it in, it just felt like it was burning his nose. And he sat on the couch one night perplexed as to what to do, until he remembered that I mentioned one night on a group chat that we were having that some paranormal beings have the ability to drop really bad stinks. And the recent property clearing that he had done had indeed had many, many paranormal beings present. Now, he messaged me and got me to have a look in his flat and around him personally. Now, indeed, there were two very disgruntled paranormal beings, and they'd not taken lightly to being moved out of their long-term home. I think they'd been there for a couple of 100 years. And seriously, we know what it's like if we're being evicted from our homes, and quite suddenly too. Even though we as house healers are generally very respectful of the property, of the energy beings, some of them have really strong personalities, as you could imagine. And they felt retribution and revenge was necessary towards my house healing friend. After a very lengthy mediation with these supernatural intruders, they conceded that my friend had only been doing his job and that they agreed to now leave him alone and to take their stinky fun elsewhere. And over the next few days, the energy of the flat where my friend lived, it really improved. And he experienced no more unsettling odours around him or in his flat. Paranormal beings, they have personalities, they have certain character traits. Some of them get angry and throw things. Occasionally that does happen. Or they knock things off a table. Or they flicker the lights, flicker your TV, steal your keys, that sort of thing. But some of them have particular habits. And I don't know why they drop smells. Maybe it's just their particular skill that they have. And they figure that, why not use that? Because we know it irritates humans. And we can just sit back and get our revenge and just watch them squirm. Before we look at our next experience, let's unpack why paranormal entities drop these stinks and what they get out of it. I put together some possible options for these smelly antics. Now, these are just my experiences. These are just my opinions about why they do it. Might be other reasons as well. If you know of any reasons why these beings drop these smells, you can leave a comment on the YouTube version of this podcast episode. Or you can send me an email. My email is in the description box. Now, let's have a look at these 5 reasons. Now, number 1, they love to see our reactions. Paranormal beings have a really strong sense of humour. People are always a little bit like, what are you talking about? They know they can get a reaction out of us from various different reasons, but we're just talking about the stinks today. Now, I did a whole episode on this about paranormal humour back in episode 9. And if you want to hear some of the funny things that I found, go and check out episode 9. It is really full of a lot of supernatural humour. Now, number 2, they do it to frighten us. So they've gone from one end of the scale to the other. One is they like to sit back and have a giggle. The other end of it is that some people get really easily frightened. They can do it to frighten us personally, or they want to keep us away from a particular location. They do it a lot to house healers, people who are going in and doing energy clearings on properties, is that they will drop these smells. I was on a paranormal tour one night when I worked as a tour guide, and one of the ladies just kept smelling this smell following her around the building, and I knew exactly who it was because in that particular building there was a being that lived behind the stairs, and he didn't particularly like people coming into that space. Now, even though we weren't behind the stairs, he kind of classed that building as his home. If I had to give it a type of smell, it would be it'd be a cross between the rotten egg and the rotten carcass type smell. So I know you're going, oh my God, that's revolting. Well, yes, it is. Now, number 3 sort of ties in with number 2. I've kind of mixed them up a bit. Number 3, this is a biggie. They're letting us know that we've overstepped a boundary. Now, this can be a property boundary, like what I mentioned in number 2. The being wasn't happy that this particular lady was there. Now, this can also be not only the property boundaries, but the fact that sometimes if people do activities that go against these beings, their morals, their values, their ethics, I can't think of the right word, but you know where I'm going with this. These beings feel confronted by people's activities. Now, I'm talking your black magic, your satanic practices, sacrificial type behaviours. I actually dealt with this once on a property clearing. Is the fact that the energy beings on that land were very, very upset that there'd been lots of these types of practices, and they would drop the most awful smells to scare away the new owners of that property. These people weren't going anywhere, and these people were really lovely. They wanted to open a meditation centre. They wanted to do art classes. They were very crafty, very arty, really nice, just your genuine sort of hippie type people. They had no intention of doing black magic practices, but these beings didn't know. So they were setting up a very strong boundary with their stinks. But I managed to help them. I did the same thing that I did with the story about the flat, is that I just talked to them. We did some mediation. I cleared the land for them of all black magic, all satanic practices, all bloodshed, anything that had been connected to those lower vibrational practices. I cleared all that energy. The energy beings were happy. They knew that the boundaries had been laid around what was allowed on the property. And these people that were living there were quite happy to go along with it. They weren't, it was funny, they weren't confronted at all when I shared with them what I found. It actually made a lot of sense. And they didn't smell the stinky stinks ever again on their property. So number 4, sometimes these energy beings will guard a particular location, similar to number 3, but slightly different. Because of the energetic imprints that are there that they like. Number 3, it was more they didn't like what was there. Now, their favourite energetic food source to all energy beings is a prized possession. It's how they get their energy so they can keep functioning. And sometimes these beings will follow me around my house if they know I've got a job coming up. And they will just keep dropping these smelly, smelly smells. And I'm like, just don't do that, please. You know I've been professionally employed to clear the home. I just have to do the mediation with them. It's all about talking with them in a respectful, calm manner. I just say to them, you just need to find somewhere else that has a similar vibration. Once they know that they absolutely have to move out and they can't shift me or budge me or frighten me in any way, they will just go. I find that the stink will last maybe 2 to 3 hours after I've made an agreement with a client to work on a property. And I'll just go straight into, I understand that you're upset that I'm going to be clearing this property, but there's some new people living there and so forth. And I go through that process of doing the mediation. Now, number 5, These might not be dark energy beings doing the stinking. Often it's elemental beings. Now, this is just my experience. Elemental beings such as gnomes. They can, on occasion, create really horrid smells, usually when they're upset. Like if you can imagine the stink bombs that we had as kids, some of them are really, really bad. Like we used to have these kids at school that would drop these stink bombs at high school a few times. And I'm like, what on earth is that smell? And it literally cleared the whole classroom. These beings can drop that sort of smell and it literally will clear the home. And I get people messaging me going, I've just bought this house and I've only been here 2 weeks and all of a sudden there's this really bad smell. We can't find the reason why. And I do a little bit of talking with them and they're like, oh yeah, we've got this junk room with all these things in it. Now, I did a whole episode on elementals and their habits and what they get up to in our earth environment back in episode 62. So if you want to check that out and if you want to know more about a different realm of energy beings who live amongst us and some of the influences and some of the things that they do in our homes, you'll find that episode quite interesting. Now, I think I've pretty much covered all the reasons I know why these beings do their stinkinesses. Okay, so our second experience is one I observed late one night during a paranormal investigation. Now, I was employed in those days as a tour guide in a local abandoned site here in southern Tasmania. And we had a very lively bunch of guests on the tour that night. And we were in one of the buildings that housed a slightly volatile energy being. This is the same being I mentioned earlier. Now, when left alone in the quiet of this building, he was fine. Like he didn't tolerate loud-mouthed hooligans. And I think some of them had had a few too many beers on their long bus ride down from the north of Tasmania. Now, that night's tour began, and halfway through, 2 people were complaining of a disgusting smell in certain parts of the building. They said that the smell seemed to follow them. And I tried to help these people understand, but they weren't interested in understanding what the smell was. They wanted the paranormal drama. They wanted to, get some sort of attention out of it, I suppose. So I just stood back, did my job. I just kept my mouth shut, while I was there working as a tour guide. But I stood there listening to their constant complaining with a little bit of a smirk on my face. And I thought to myself, look, if I had to deal with these people in my home, I'd probably drop a few stinky stinks as well to get rid of them. Now, I knew who was haunting those 2 uncouth people. And they'd created this problem, and they had to suffer for the whole 2 hours with this stink bomber hot on their heels. Like he went everywhere with them. He's like, I just don't like these people. He didn't stink out any of the other people on the tour. Sometimes these energy beings know who are the disrespectful people. Like these beings can read our energy. You don't even have to open your mouth for them to know what sort of person you are. Don't ask me how they know. I find this is a thing, and when I know more about why it's a thing, I will let you know. Now, coming to the end of that tour, I saw in my mind the creator of that night's stinky trauma. Now, he was retreating to his very quiet, very dark hiding place behind the stairs. Because I actually saw him move. I saw his, how can I explain it? His outline. I don't see paranormal beings as like a full-blown apparition. I quite often see their energy like they're cloaked, like they're wearing some sort of invisibility cloak. I see their sort of shimmering outline. Anyway, he went back downstairs and it wasn't a problem. Now, I felt his energy felt different to the way it normally felt. Like I interacted with this being, I can't remember the number of the episode, but it was one of my very early episodes. It could be number 2, 3 or 4. It's called The Entity Under the Stairs. He was rather fascinating. He liked me and I kind of liked him. I didn't understand him. I didn't quite know what he was, but I respected him. He was living in our environment, or are we living in his environment? Do dimensions overlap? That's a topic for another story. But on this particular night, I felt he was quite happy with himself. After he'd had his little bit of fun with these people for the night, and he kind of retreated back under the stairs to have a little bit of a giggle and a bit of a think about what he'd got up to. Now, as we walked these guests to the gate, it was a relief to see these people drive away with their noisy, disrespectful passengers. And I do wonder if they ever experienced any other stink bombers at other haunted locations. So what can you do if you have an unexplainably stinky smell in your home that has no rational cause? Now, two options come to mind. You can very calmly and very politely address the space in your home. Are you saying, what do you mean by that? Just walk around your house. If it's a particular smell in one room, go and stand in that room. Don't show any fear. They're not there to hurt you. They're just usually upset about something, like I've mentioned earlier. So just be polite and apologise for possibly upsetting them. Because these beings are sharing our space, usually for a reason, like my little elemental friend in that story I just shared. He's here for a reason. He can't go home because the portal that he came through is no longer there. He's been assigned to be here at that particular space, under the stairs, in that building. He's assigned as some sort of land guardian. Now, I've done this myself during many house clearing jobs, is that I will quite often, if I find I've got a smell in the house, I'll just say the address and I'll say the name of the people at that home. And I'll say, look, you do know that I was professionally employed to come in and clear that home. I didn't wish you any harm. You just need to go and find somewhere else to live. Go and find your favourite vibration elsewhere. And generally, within about 30 minutes, the smell disappears because they know I'm not going to give them any attention. I'm not going to react. I'm not going to be nasty. I'm not going to provoke them in any way, to give them any excuse to come back at me with retaliation. Just keep it calm. Just keep it calm. And I've often said to people, if the smell doesn't leave, then you need to move on to number 2. Now, number 2 is to call in someone like myself, someone who is an experienced energy clearer, who's used to dealing with paranormal issues. Because it is a specific issue. You have to know how to talk to these energy beings. You have to know how to unpack and identify, if you can, what type of energy being they are, how long they've been there, why there's an issue. Once you can do that and identify the cause of what the issue is, the paranormal beings are then going to want to have a conversation with you. Treat them respectfully and you're going to get the best result possible. Now, in some of the other episodes that I've talked about, there's been gnomes in people's homes. And as I mentioned earlier, gnomes can leave a bit of a stink in places. They're quite irate. They've got very short fuses. There's the little red faces. They've got very short fuses. I'm just seeing their faces in my mind now as we talk. Is that you just talk to them really calmly. You give them another option. Quite often, gnomes will want to stay in homes because they like things. I talk about it in that other episode number that I mentioned earlier. They like their treasures. They're very, very materialistic is the word that I'm looking for. So if you can give them an option, then you just share the property together. Because quite often, I think, this is one of the reasons why I think these beings are present and they let off their stinks, is that we are inhabiting their space in what they see as their dimension. Wherever they're existing is existing in exactly the same space where we are existing. I had this happen once in a house I went to. I've mentioned it in another episode somewhere along the line. Is that a lady called me to go into her home. She was hearing pub-like sounds, like music, glasses clinking, people sort of chattering in her back bedroom. Now, this lady lived in the country. No houses for kilometres around. It was just bushland, just Australian bushland. Now, when I went into the back bedroom, I'm like, yep, I can hear that. Now, there was no radios on. There was no TVs on. The lady's house was dead quiet. Excuse the pun. I'm standing in that back bedroom and I'm picking up on a portal doorway. Now, through that portal doorway into another reality, I could hear and I could sense groups of people. Now, they weren't aware that that doorway was open. They're just going about their business. So who knows if it was a time portal or was it a portal to another dimension where these people were just having a good time? But it was an unusual experience. So I very carefully and very politely closed that portal in this reality so that this lady could get some peace and quiet. Because the portal doorway was right next to the wall where her bed was on the other side. I said she couldn't sleep because she was just picking up on all this noise and the chatter and the talking and the glasses clinking, just like she said. She said, it's just like I'm back in the pub again. So that was a fascinating experience. I know it wasn't a stinky experience, but sometimes these episodes just go the way they go. So I hope you found that interesting. Now, I just wanted to mention too that if you are very energetically sensitive, that means you pick up on changes in the vibration in the environment around us. You might sense the stenchy stinkers more than others do around you. You can be out with a group of people and no one else can smell it except you. Now, you're not going mad. You are just more aware of the energetic environment around you. So just observe, don't get caught in it, don't give it any attention, and just go about whatever it is that you're doing with the people you're out with. So I hope you've found some interesting enlightenment about our stinky energy beings that hang around in this environment with us. They're rather fascinating. I don't come across them very often, but when you do, the experiences are usually quite memorable. So in episode 64, we are talking horror versus paranormal and why society has tipped the scale, frightening all of us out of our wits. I'm going to share my thoughts on this topic and what I've observed and people's reactions when I share a very realistic explanation of the paranormal world around us. A lot of people don't like the way I talk about the paranormal. They want it to be horror, but then they don't want to be frightened. They kind of want something that they don't want. We are very complicated as human beings, so I'm going to unpack it the best way I can and talk about how horror versus paranormal, are they the same? Are they different? How do they relate to each other? So I look forward to seeing you in that episode. And if you like this episode, you want to learn more about the paranormal, I'm always sharing new information that nobody else does. Please hit the subscribe button, send me a comment, send me one of your stories. So thank you for joining me today. And don't forget, if you want to share a paranormal experience just with myself, or you would like me to share one of your experiences through my podcast, you can do a voice recording, or you can write out your experience and I will read it exactly as you have written. You can email me at spiritualbeing44@gmail.com. And for information on paranormal house clearing, you can visit my website, Spiritual Being. You will find the address in the description box. And I look forward to sharing this spooky space again with you next week. And remember, life is perfectly paranormal.